There are some Dualsense Edge features that I just haven't gotten around to testing out. If you've seen my most recent video on the Dualsense Edge where I talked about it from a single player gamer's perspective, you would realize that there were quite a few things that I just didn't really get into. And this video kind of addresses that because now those features are something that I use on a daily basis, whereas I never actually used them at all beforehand. As you can see in the thumbnail and in the intro, the two things that I'm talking about is the middle stop button in the trigger buttons and the controller or cable controller holder. So this guy over here. Now this is a funny thing that I definitely understood the purpose of when we did the video, the unboxing and all of that, but I didn't ever use as much as I have more recently. So at the moment I've been using this almost every day depending on what game I am playing, and I have absolutely fallen in love with it. So if you don't know what this is, you take this and you take the controller cable that is provided with the controller. Very nice cable, by the way. Absolutely loved this cable. Incredibly well made. The braiding is awesome. And what you do is you open this up, you put the cable in there and you close this. And you're probably wondering, okay, what's so great about that? Well, then you take your Dualsense Edge controller, you plug the cable with the contraption into the controller and you lock it in, and now it's not going anywhere. Now the reason this is so fantastic is I have figured out that I can feel the latency between gameplay. So what I've been doing and playing a lot recently is a lot of FC25. Now I know sports games, I get it, but I'm an Arsenal fan, I love football, so I've been delving back into the world of FC, but I could feel the latency for some reason, and I didn't realize that it was just because I didn't have a wired connection. So I changed my settings, put the controller into the wired option, and I've been playing like that ever since, and I've definitely felt a massive improvement. Now with FC25, I've also noticed that the middle stop button in the trigger stops actually has a purpose. So for me, I think I even said it in my original video, my single player perspective of the Dualsense Edge video, I could never figure out why there was not just two stops. So one fully open and then one where it's short throw. However, now with me playing the FC games, I have figured out that this middle button or middle stop is actually perfect for this type of game. So you're running, you don't actually want the triggers activated. I don't like the trigger sensation, but the short throw, so if you have it the full way down, is actually just too short for what I want. So having that middle option has actually been invaluable for this type of gameplay. So these two features are some of the ones that I've gotten, sorry, bumped the mic, gotten a lot more use out of more recently. Now on top of that, I've actually started delving into the customizing of not only the button mappings, but the custom profiles for the joysticks. So if you know me, I haven't actually gotten back into those or gone into those at all. I didn't really understand the need or feel the need to go into those. I kind of figured that everything was okay the way it was. However, when I started playing more games that required a little bit more reactivity, so for example Returnal, I mean I've spoken about Returnal quite often when I talk about this controller, but it truly is one of the best examples as to why this controller is so beneficial to not only multiplayer competitive gamers but to single player gamers as well. But in that I changed the analog stick mapping, so now it has more accurate and more precise movements on the sticks, so that when you do go through motions and you do put in a little bit more effort, then your curve kind of, it's very difficult to explain, but your curve makes it so that you are experiencing the movement of your joystick at a much more rapid rate, which is very important for first person and even third person shooters. So it is something that has become a lot more present when I do custom profiles. So I've set up quite a few custom profiles at this point, and when I have been setting them up, I haven't really been touching the joystick or the analog stick presets. I don't know how to explain them, the analog presets. I've literally just been leaving them flat and they are staying at that normal curve, and it's been fine. But now that I've gotten into actually customizing them, I've gone back into a lot of my other profiles and gotten further into customizing them. So it is something that has become a lot bigger and a lot more of a part of how I set up my Dualsense Edge controller. So while these features were something that I kind of left out in my previous videos and things that I didn't actually chat about, things that I didn't get into as much, it is something that has become a lot more usable and a lot more present and a lot more invaluable to the way I play. So I've been playing a lot of games lately, and I've been playing a lot of competitive games, so FC is a lot more competitive. I don't recommend it. FC25 is very toxic, but I've just been trying it out, getting around to it, and I've actually been enjoying the Dualsense Edge as that type of controller. It has really helped me gain a little bit of an edge, if you want to put it like that, in those type of games. Obviously there's no substitute for good gameplay, but it has helped me level up a little. Of course, I'm still rocking the same button setup on the back. I love having the two different ones so that I know that I'm pressing two separate buttons, not that I'm pressing the same or accidentally pressing the same button. So my button setup at the back has stayed the same, and I think it probably will. I do change it over to having the double paddles for games like Returnal. So where you do need to have rapid feedback, I do have them both as paddles. But for the most part, and for the majority of the games that I play, I have one dome and one paddle, and that suits me perfectly fine. So I think the question then begs the question, do I think the Dualsense Edge is now more worth it or less worth it? And I will say, as a competitive gamer, if you are looking for a controller to get into that has definitely got features that allow you to progress further and make your own decisions in terms of what you want to customize with the controller, I don't think you can go wrong with the Edge. I think the Edge gives you such a good advantage in certain aspects of gameplay that it is definitely worth purchasing from a competitive perspective. However, again, with the single player perspective, it's a little bit more difficult to recommend. If you are a massive PlayStation fan and you just want to have that ultimate experience and you have that ultimate customizability even in your single player titles, then I definitely do think it is worth it in that regard. However, it is a tough sell for just more normal or more casual gamers, because I actually still use my normal controllers most of the time. When I'm playing just normally, I was going to say when I'm normally playing like Astrobot behind me, but I use the Dualsense Edge now for the speed runs, because obviously you get that a little bit of an advantage with those type of things. But like when I'm playing Baldur's Gate 3 or I'm playing Assassin's Creed Origins, if you haven't seen that stream, make sure you go check it out. Okay, in the stream I use the Edge, but for the most part, normal single player games where you actually want the haptics and feedback, I still gravitate towards using a normal Dualsense controller. So it's not to say that a Dualsense Edge is going to completely replace your entire library of controllers. If you know me, I have a massive library of controllers. We're going to get another one very soon, hopefully. Pre-orders are going live as I'm recording this, or the day before I'm recording this, day after, doesn't matter. But I still gravitate towards using a normal controller in most situations, but the Dualsense Edge is still a fantastic controller, and I do think for competitive gamers, this is where this controller really shines. And I think that you will definitely experience a massive improvement in your level of gameplay and your enjoyment of games, because you will have everything honed in and set to exactly what you want. I know in most competitive shooters you can adjust camera sensitivity and all these things, and that's great, but that's baked into the game. This is baked into the controller settings, and I think that is just a little bit more of an ideal way of playing. I've also been using it on competitive shooters. I only play Helldivers and Battlefront 2. I still play Star Wars Battlefront 2 every so often, as weird as that is, but those are the only two competitive shooters that I play, and I always use the Dualsense Edge in those type of games. But like I said, for the majority of my games, I am just a normal single player type gamer. So for those type of games, I definitely do gravitate towards my normal controller more, but there are some situations where I would much rather play with the Dualsense Edge, for example, Returnal. But yeah, I just wanted to quickly shout out those two features that I didn't give enough attention in my previous videos. The the cable and the cable extension does not excuse the bad battery life of the Dualsense Edge, but I do think if you're playing for more than 4 hours, which I think is the battery life for the Dualsense Edge, you maybe should give yourself a little bit of a break, then charge your controller. I know us gamers, when we're in the mood and we're in our zone, we don't want to put down that controller. But yeah, I think the Dualsense Edge is a fantastic controller, and if you do want to carry on playing those games, just plug it in and carry on playing that way, because you won't experience any latency. And that controller cable is so long that you can sit on your couch. I think my couch is about 1.5 meters, maybe 2 meters away from the TV, and I have no problem having the controller plugged in and playing like that. The only problem I have is that my dog might bite it. She's just walking around at the bottom there. But yeah, I think that this Edge is slowly but surely becoming the main controller that I will always pick up. I still think though that if you are on a fine line between whether or not to get it or not, I think maybe hold off unless you are a massively competitive gamer and you enjoy playing your more competitive shooters and your more competitive titles. That's where I think this definitely becomes a much more approachable controller, and then you can then test it out with your single player games as well. Guys, thank you so much for watching. Make sure you're liking and subscribing, and go follow my YouTube or go follow my Instagram channel in the description below, because I think that I do a little bit more content over there where you can see a lot more of my collection and things like that. I do more regular uploads here on YouTube, but you do see more stuff on Instagram. Guys, thank you so much for watching, and I will check you